recording.
You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Colin.
I'm Nathan.
And we are currently watching network television because me and Nathan do not watch network television. We are watching season 1 of The Blacklist, which started airing in 2014. Nope, 13. The date changed over in the show. We're watching season 2 of The Mentalist, which started airing in 2009, and we're watching season 2 of Miami Vice, which started airing in 1985. And as always, we start with a blacklist. We have season 1, episode 12, The Alchemist. Which I don't know, for some reason for this show, I always wanted to read it as The Alchemist.
When do they say it? When they talk about like the practice of alchemy, I've heard it say he's practicing alchemical. Was it alchemic? It's such a weird. It's an arcane word.
Yeah.
He's using alchemical processes,
yes,
but
yes.
in every other context, it's always the alchemist.
Yeah.
And I always think about people like, is that trying to turn lead into gold, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or what is that?
I think that is. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I believe so. Number 101, which seems like a special number, so they use it here.
Yeah.
Which it really isn't. I don't know. I guess he's a nerd, so that's all right. Anyways, original air date January 20th, 2014, NBC, Monday. As Red enlists activist whistleblowers in his search for the mole, Liz pursues a deranged scientist who has helped dozens of criminals escape by engineering and killing their genetic doubles. Showrunner John Bokenkamp, written by Anthony Sparks and directed by Vincent Massano. Or is it Massiano? Yeah, it's probably Massiano. So like this show picks up immediately where we left off from the last episode.
Yeah.
Where Red and Liz are talking, and so Red tells of the alchemist, and who he's been hired to kill a mob informant. But then we get
Serbian mob informant.
Oh, yeah, I didn't make that. Is there a specific reason for that?
No, it's just extra evil.
Okay. I mean, it's a nice detail. It's better than just a mob informant. it's
well, yeah. We always assume that like the guys with accents are like way worse than our mob people.
Yeah.
Our mob people are like Tony Soprano, the anti-hero. But Glovlev Najivsky, the Russian whatever mobster is like, oh yeah, that's like Eastern Promises, like rip your skin off while you're alive to. Yeah, those are the mob people.
Yeah, these are all the crimes aren't being filmed, so it's left to your horrible imagination of what they're doing. Right.
Because a bunch of guys driving down the street with machine guns, that's American crime. But this like deeply personal crime from the former Soviet bloc is extra scary in people's imagination and in reality too. I mean, the Tony Soprano guys, you can at least like gauge their depth. It's like, I don't want problems with that guy. But it's like the level of evil there doesn't seem as sinister or deep. So yeah, that's why they do that.
Have you ever seen that video where the Mexican government like takes down these drug dealers with an Apache helicopter?
Yes.
That shows you how frightening an Apache helicopter is to civilian vehicles.
Yeah, it's like nothing. It's like a mouse attacking a gorilla. It's just like there's no chance you can defeat. I mean, those things have been around forever, and they're still like, that's the premier kill copter in the world.
Yeah, well, if you're not going up against somebody who doesn't have an air force.
Yeah, it's death.
But they got lots of dangerous people and lots of guns. But if you got air superiority, But I've never seen I've seen stuff for the Apache helicopters. Usually it's all test footage. I've never really seen like in combat stuff. And so here's like an Apache helicopter in a non-combat zone taking on a drug dealer.
Yep.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, that's no holds barred. I mean, that's just like that's a level of commitment.
And it's almost like Black Hawk Down stuff. Like I remember like the beginning of that, like they you know, they're flying the Blackhawks and like they shoot like the guy's engine block and they take him in, like, and like that is so tame to just this like closed circuit footage of this like truck just getting lit up by an Apache helicopter. And just the gun, no missiles.
Yeah, I mean, if they emptied out a rocket pod, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, just the gun on the front is like, oh, it incinerates the vehicle. Like there's nothing. I don't know what kind of guns those have, but from that video, I remember, you know, that weird effect you get when metal really slams into metal hard and it looks like fireworks.
Yeah,
And it's not like ammunition cooking off or something. It's just like the metal exploding from the impact, like when tanks get hit by other tanks.
yeah.
And you see this burning that looks like welding. It's like, oh yeah, that's a lot of destructive power.
Anyways, so we cut to a scene where like a lady, yeah, she's being drugged. I think I confused. The guy here is the alchemist, and I believe in this scene because like the next scene, it's like the couple wake up, and I was like, oh, were they both in that previous scene? And like, I don't think they were.
No,
so,
it was confusing though. I had to go back and look and like, oh yeah, okay, I see what's going on.
They're different people. So yeah, some couple wake up after being drugged, and they're on a plane, and they don't know who they themselves are, and like,
they're in weird pain because she's like, my teeth, they hurt, and he's like, I feel weird. Why are you calling me Piotr or something? That's not my name. And
he's like, I don't have tattoos.
Yeah, and he's covered with tattoos. Like, I don't know who I am.
And then there's just some like jovial, like almost like librarian. It's like, oh, bye guys. He just jumps out of the airplane.
Yeah, I'm your pilot. Hang on, and he just like leaps out of the airplane.
And you see the dead pilots in the background.
Yeah,
and then the plane crashes. I think that's credits.
Yeah.
And we find out like, yeah, these people are like doppelgangers. So not like completely, because there's always that thing like there's you know, with blood tests there's like a 1 in a billion chance that you have the same genetic code as someone else in the world.
Yeah.
So I thought that's what it was going to be, but it's not. But yeah, he finds people that he can make close enough so that when he fakes their death, all the forensic tests they use will come up as like, yes, this is officially that person. So
yeah, he basically looks like he does stuff with their teeth and to make their dental records match, and then he looks at x-rays of the people and any injuries or wounds they have, like he duplicates.
Yeah.
And then it gets into real alchemy where he's like, and he uses fake DNA and fake blood to make the blood seem like the person supposed to die.
They call it synthetic DNA.
Yeah,
which I didn't look up. It's probably a real thing. I don't know.
I'm just going to accept that and move on. Because this is like one of the worst. The Alchemist is like one of the worst people I've seen on the Blacklist show, because this is a hardcore lunatic.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what happens later, but it's like, oh, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, Red has his own organization looking for the mole, but yeah,
it's WikiLeaks.
Yeah, essentially. Which reading the description, I was like, oh, that's what they are. I thought he like assembled the team, but apparently they were just already working on stuff, and he's just like buying.
No, he's trying to help Julian Assange get out of the Ecuadorian embassy. I mean, he doesn't say any of this, but that's what it's like. Red's using them with the pretext that he can get their leader out of an embassy. Is like, okay, I know who this is, which is fun. It's funny.
Yeah, it's Peter Madrichik is the mob guy. Although that name is spelled very weird.
Lots of extra letters. CZYK.
Yeah.
An R with no like
Peter but it looks like Piter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Red and Liz like meet in a Jewish temple.
Yep.
And this is where he's trying to convince her like that, oh, this guy's my competition. Like, we need to take him out.
Yeah, he disappears people too, but he does it more thoroughly.
Yeah, he's an artist at it.
More darkly.
And then there's like just a weird thing where it's like Red's like just like dalliance of indulgence that he's expressing to other people. He's like, try the fertilized duck eggs. Like, you'll die and feel like you've gone to hell. Yeah,
I like the Redisms in this. It's like I was I was hoping for when he was talking about eating the fertilized duck eggs. I thought he was going to describe it as like it's an odd experience, but one you must have. You know, kind of like all those rich guys are like, yeah, eat the crazy stuff, and he's like, no, it's as horrible as it sounds, but you need to do it. You know,
It'll taste good and you'll feel bad about it.
yeah,
And we'll all go to hell together.
yeah, we're all holding hands. It's like the Anthony Bourdain thing with like suckling fetal pig. That's like it's the tenderest meat. It's like it's bad enough, you know. Just you're gonna slaughter something and make bacon out of it. Can you let at least it be a baby? Do we have to eat a baby? Because that's what you're talking about, eating a baby. It's like okay, but it's a baby pig. But this is things rich people come up with.
Yeah, there's that weird one where it's like it's basically like a bird that's fried alive.
Yeah, that's the one you eat under a shroud so God
Yeah.
can't see you doing it. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's fried alive in butter.
Yeah,
because it does like its fear response does something that makes it taste good. And it's like, oh, this is too dark. No.
Which I first heard about that in an episode of Hannibal. So
yeah, it's real. Bourdain talked about it too. I've heard it on his when he was doing his other food show before CNN, the even more sinister and sarcastic one.
we have the post office team at the bar. Wrestler's talking about his ex because apparently the guy she's what do you call that, engaged to, is apparently he's just a real tool, and so
he calls them tassels.
Yeah, because he has tassels on his shoes. And he's like a DJ or something. He's some millennial DJ.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, he's like basically like, well, we're at a bar, let's just have some real talk, even though like they're supposed to be undercover. And then Peter shows up, he's alive, which the whole team is kind of caught off guard by because they're like, this isn't true. This guy's actually dead. And they're like, oh, I guess it is true, which is weird. It's like if he's supposed to be like off the grid, like why is he just hanging out in a bar?
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know. There's some stuff later on that they mentioned. I probably missed it, but like their flight out or whatever got delayed, so that's why they're hanging around still. Which I don't know. That probably could have been orchestrated by Red. There's a lot of things in this episode. I'm wondering if Red's involved somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Peter runs, and the team catch him. We have another like Liz and Tom talk, and they like mend their relationship like they do every episode.
Yeah, every episode.
And then the wife of Peter shows up. I didn't get her name. I missed it. And she's talking to the alchemist. And he's like trying to get like, hey, who would you tell anybody about this? And she's like, nobody. He's like, who's your lawyer? And she says a lawyer name, and then he just shoots her in the head. And
yeah.
And then she lands on some plastic so he can just roll her up and throw her away or whatever.
Yeah, very locks or Snatch style.
Yeah,
it's just got the plastic taped up, ready to go. It's like, yeah, you know you're gonna die.
And the alchemist shows up as Peter's lawyer and poisons him. But it's kind of fun because like I guess it's like, how does his wife know him but he didn't see him? I guess she made the arrangements or something. But it's funny because he knows it's like, oh, this isn't my lawyer. Get my lawyer. And he's like berating him. So like it seems like the alchemist is like, oh, I get to enjoy this kill.
Yeah.
And he uses like there's a fun scene where also like he asks Wrestler for a smoke, the Peter guy, and he's like, yeah, I have a cigarette. They're my cigarettes. Yeah. And he leaves
cigarettes for you unless you talk.
And so apparently he knew that this guy had like because he has to know everything about them so he can fake their death and all their, he probably, the person that died in the plane crash, he probably like put some nicotine in their body and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, this is their usual MO. So he has a nicotine gum thing that ends up killing him.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I mean, we assume he's dead. There is a thing where like they call for an ambulance, and we just never see him come back alive. But we just assumed he's dead.
I'm assuming if the alchemist guy gave him poison, he's dead.
Then we get some more backstory on the alchemist, and apparently he was like a med school dropout who like forged his qualifications.
Yeah, so he can get access, work at the German Genome Project or something.
Yeah. Yeah, which is weird because it seems like he's good at stuff, but also not good at stuff, and there's no really like explained reason.
I think it's because he's so arrogant. He's just like, oh, I know it already.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's just, I me's obviously extremely intelligent, and maybe school just wasn't his. It's like, I already know this. It's like a waste of my time to.
Yeah.
Because he's ultimately, he's a deeply evil man.
Yeah.
Both, in obvious and subtle ways. But yeah.
But he wasn't exposed. Like, he got to work on all this like high end like medical stuff, or what we assume to be. That's how they kind of. But like he apparently probably got a bunch of money acting as a DNA expert for like a mob.
Yeah, and they discredited him. They exposed him as a fraud. Yeah, not the mob, but the prosecutors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which it didn't seem like they found out. It's like, oh, his qualifications are forged. The evidence was like forged or whatever.
Yeah,
I forget the name for that. But yeah, so they thought he was dead. They thought he was dead because he goes missing. So they just assumed the mob killed him. But that's where I guess that's where he started his job of disappearing people, but very elaborately.
Yeah.
And then Liz meets the alchemist's family. His name's I have it up top here, Eric Treadle.
Treadle, yeah.
And yeah, we find out the daughter's diabetic, so obviously that's going to be a clue later on.
Yeah, that was just introduced that she had some machine on her.
Yeah, it looks like a pager with like some headphones plugged into it, but like I don't know, that could be a real thing for all I know. So
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, she had an insulin pump. So
yeah, I didn't know they did it that way. Maybe they do.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought you just took shots or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but if it really, they do have like they do have an insulin pump if it just needs to be constantly.
Oh, okay.
Or there's actually I'm trying to think. I think that might actually be how like that Tim Ferriss guy did his 4-hour body book. Is he got one of these installed? I think.
Oh, okay.
And so he monitored like what happened to his body with like all the food he intook and stuff like that. That's where he figured out how to do the diet. Now he says like that's what worked for him. It's not necessarily works for everybody, but on a general thing, that's why the diet works, because he went the extra mile to have an insulin monitor installed.
Okay. Huh.
Which I'm assuming you can also uninstall it. So yeah, he did a lot of crazy things that like only rich people can do. But yeah, to monitor your body like that.
Want $10,000 worth of specialized monitoring equipment.
Oh, he got like. You can do like these like I'm not sure if it's MRI, but it's like something similar where it does a body scan of you and you can determine like where fat and muscle is all over your body, but incredibly accurately. So you can realize like, oh, I need to work more on this muscle group with spending $20,000 on an MRI. That's the kind of thing rich people can do.
Yeah, that's why they're living forever.
Yeah.
Drinking or getting injected with young people's blood. Yeah, all that stuff.
Well, that's old because we're like that's in that Rise and Kill First book. There's like that like Swedish lady who's involved in like like Israeli espionage somehow, and like she would get like young blood in like the Swiss Alps.
That's right. Yeah, it's been around.
She was like 50 years old, but she looked like she was like 28 for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then we have Red's team is like scanning shredded documents and putting them back together, which I was trying to like that, like when they showed like the trash piles of the shredded documents, like it's like that was my first idea. I was like, I wonder if they're going to do it or if they're going to do it the brute force way. So they did it this way. So it's fun where they basically just scan all the documents and have software that tries to puzzle it back together, you know?
Yeah, they're just randomly putting the strips on pegboards.
Mm-hmm.
And then the computer like scans and scans again as they put more strips on, and then it looks for similarities in paper density, font type, and all that. And eventually it can recreate all the documents you have in those bags.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. And it was invented by the Germans, which Fred has something. It's like, yeah, no matter how innocent they pretend to be, they're still the best people in the world at spying on their own citizens. It was like, oh, okay.
Which is also funny because they start this thing out. It's like they talk about, it's like, here's a bunch of shredded paperwork from all these organizations around the FBI and stuff like that. And it's like it can't be put back together, but it's all like single slice. It's not cross stripped. So like it's like that stuff you can obviously put back together.
Yeah, I have one at home that does the Chris cut, and it's like, yeah, you could never put that back together. I mean, I guess if you had an unlimited amount of time and people, you could.
Yeah.
And you don't want to, because all I shred are like credit card applications. But yeah, I mean, and also the way the government destroys documents now is they chemically, ever since like 9/11 and stuff, which would be way even like 8 or 9 years before this show, they chemically dissolve a lot of this stuff. They shred it and throw it into a thing that pulps it, so it basically destroys all the ink. So yeah, you can never really get a hold of government documents. They don't subcontract the destruction of secret documents, because that's just like an open invitation for every spy organization in the world that's not America to immediately get into the document destruction business. And I mean every country in the world, not just enemies.
Well, I mean, they did say that like all these documents that they're going through are kind of very superfluous and won't exactly lead them to where they want, but they could find something that points to what they need. So
yeah, if they're looking for, they already have a lot of information. They're just looking for very specific clues. So
yeah,
I suppose it makes sense.
I know it's a fun puzzle. So
yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's like, that's an interesting idea. Just a bunch of scanners and custom made software to do something that's like, that's kind of obvious and incredibly genius at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that already do that. I mean, you basically like set up your own personal captcha.
Yeah.
Do these fit together? Yes, no. You basically have an AI just run the crap together. So,
yep.
I mean, I make it sound like that's super easy, but if you know what you're doing, that's not that complicated.
Yeah.
Then we have the alchemist like lures some chick to like a fake casting call.
Yep.
Which I wasn't sure what's going on here at first, because it's also paired with another scene where there's like some substitute teacher who's a spy or something.
Jolene, yeah.
And she's like, she's looking into a mirror, and she says like this like staged phrase, which you're wondering is like, oh, is English not her first language, but she just really has this like line down or something, but have no idea. And then she has a file that says Tom Keen on it, which I was guessing at first like, oh, what organization is going through here now? Then I was like, oh, this is probably a red thing.
Yeah.
But that's not confirmed.
No. Wheels within wheels.
Yeah. Well, we don't even know if she's a spy, but usually, you want to give a random person a folder that has someone's name on it.
Yeah, when I go meet people, I don't have like files on them and read them and practice the lines in the mirror, practice dialogue.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, there's obviously something that's this is like maybe corporate level espionage, or in this universe you never know.
Yeah. And then like the next thing we have like they're like on the trail of Treadle, and then the alchemist kills his family, but I write down immediately they're probably doppelgangers. So that's why he did the fake casting call, because he needs somebody to double the wife of, or the double his wife. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't show the little girl that he also did that to and killed.
No. I mean, they showed a dead body of a girl, but they didn't show the process of acquiring the girl and like changing her medical, doing stuff to her teeth and all that crazy stuff. So
yeah, that's why I said this is one of the worst people on the blacklist.
Yeah,
I mean, because I'm sure all those other people killed children too, but it's different to sit down and like, oh, I'm just going to pull your teeth out of your jaw and rewire things, and then I'm going to shoot you.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay, this guy needs to die, and wish was granted.
And then there's like they put some of the team that's putting the papers together. That Mira shows up in a document, but we don't know what it's for. They just see that name, so it's like, oh, so it's like she might be the mole, but we don't know. And they're able to trace the alchemist and his family through the daughter's insulin pump, because apparently like, it gives off some sort of like radio signal or whatever. So
because American medicine is always watching you, they want their equipment back.
And then there ends up being a standoff at the gas station, which is like, but it's like very awkward. So it's like, yeah, it was interesting to see like this guy who's very professional at all this stuff, and he does seemingly impossible things, and then he just fumbles this last bit here. So
yeah,
or even have like he pulls a gun on the, because like the Amber Alert goes out, and so everybody sees the daughter, and then like the gas station attendant like starts calling the cops, and he pulls a gun on him. He's like, put the phone down, and then some other like, you know, righteous citizen like decides he's gonna pull his gun out to try to stop him, but he fumbles it and ends up shooting the daughter.
Yeah, well, he shoots the daughter after Treadle shoots him. As he's going down, his gun goes off, and that's when he gets hit.
And he takes the gun off him, so now he has two guns.
Yeah.
I think we cut to commercial break, and we come back, and it's just everything's set up as an
hostage standoff.
Hostage standoff, and then Wrestler and Liz show up. Liz is.
And they're arguing with the SWAT team.
Yeah, interagency rivalry.
Like, I don't care if you're from the FBI, you're not going in there, and we're going to protect the hostages, and we'll just shoot this guy. He's like, he's got information, and the guy's like, I don't care until your boss calls my boss. And then just Liz throws her gun on the hood of the car and starts walking towards the building.
Yeah, and she starts to work up like talking to the guy, and he's like, he wants immunity, of course. And then he'll sell out all of his people he's worked for, and then his wife takes one of the guns and then shoots him in the back, and then the sniper shoots him in the head, and so that's over with. He's dead.
Yeah, the wife has decided no more of this guy.
Yeah, and presumably they get an ambulance to that kid.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
This is a dead kids episode. We have no idea.
But then we come back to, I think we come back to the post office, and I think Aram is basically like all the information they would have got from him, he's able to just like get from one of the hard drives from one of his labs or whatever. So
yeah,
they basically have everything they need, so they didn't really need him anyways.
So they have all the people that this guy disappeared that they're still looking for.
Yeah. And then Liz, and they meet at the Jewish temple again, and Liz hands the list over to Red, and he just kind of completely dismisses it. It's like, yeah, I have other things I need to do today.
And she's like, oh, you just took the you just wanted that list from us. And yeah, he's like, yeah, pretty much.
And we don't even know how he's going to use it, or unless he's just going to sell them out. Like, that'll be fun too.
Yeah.
Or if somebody on that list, another list, a separate list from the blacklist, is somebody also needs, or if somebody on that list is a part of the blacklist. It's like, cross them off when you uncross them. And then he goes to like meet with Audrey, and he makes this bold proclamation that he's gonna with Liz when they're in the office together, that he's gonna go tell Audrey that like her fiance is garbage and she should get rid of him. And then like he goes there and it's like, I think this is a good idea. And then she's like, I just broke up with him. And then they like leave together happy. It's like, so they're gonna get back together, and that's gonna be probably some weird problem.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like, I don't know, that's sort of like one of the through lines of this entire series is that having significant others is just purely a weakness.
Yeah, it's always a way in. They can exploit it.
Because that's how, I mean, that's what this whole episode is like. The reason the alchemist was taken down is because he presumably loved his family or just felt he owned them, and then they were his downfall. And it's like with Red, you know, we all assume that Liz is his daughter, but he denies it because if anybody knew that, that would be like a weakness on his part. And then yeah, so and then they're even with you have with Liz and Tom, and they're about to adopt a child. Like that child is going to be a weak part. Like this is all about like you need to abandon your family to do your job.
Yeah, you just have to like do your job and live in a steel box and just have yourself air gapped from any normal human relationships because it's always a way in.
So this episode kind of makes everyone's life in this very sad.
Yeah, it's terrible. This is also an extraordinarily dangerous universe these people operate in. But they still live in like normal houses that can be infiltrated by killers, people putting in spy devices, everything else, and they just go right back to the same house. Like, yeah, this is fine now.
It's good.
Yeah, it'll work.
Also, there's like this whole time where Tom and Liz are supposed to have like this really heart-to-heart talk over like dinner. And so Tom makes like a special dinner, but Liz has to cancel. And then previously there was a party where that's where we meet Jolene, and she kind of like tries to get to know him better and talks about like this photography exhibit that's going on, like you should come. And so then Tom goes to this photography exhibit. Presumably he's like more interested in Jolene than Liz now, and so he's like looking to cheat on Liz.
Yeah,
at least that's what we're led to believe. Like I wonder how this whole thing ends. Is this where like the reveal for Tom is like later on, like Jolene tries to do something, he's like, oh, I guess I gotta kill her, and that's where we find out like Tom's evil.
Yeah,
it's like, official now.
It's like the people in the Americans, like they're just kind of normal looking people, but then they can start doing like Krav Maga, like a 9th level or something. It's like, oh, these people are obviously not what they appear.
Yeah, which is like this has been like with that if that turns out, this is just a huge balk on Tom's point, because like when that one guy in like the the first episode where that one guy like takes hold of him and stabs him a bunch. It's like presumably if he's some super spy, he probably could have taken care of that guy. Just full of cancer, unless he just got the drop on him. You never know. But that was like a huge bet that like, oh, I'll let this guy take me out or take me down. Like he's not gonna kill me.
He's only gonna stab knives into me so deep, you know.
Unless that guy was also a part of whatever Tom's things is, if it exists.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just gonna stab you a little, like it'll be okay. But yeah, and the Liz comes home with Chinese food, but she's by herself, and so she doesn't know he's out there with Jolene. Which she's substitute teaching for somebody, so I wonder if we're gonna find the substitute dead, or the actual teacher she's subbing for like dead somewhere. I can't remember. It's like a one sentence line that's probably not meant to be like dug through, but that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Red sitting in dark waiting for Mira. He's pointing a gun at her. And he's like, you know why I'm here? And she's like, because you think I'm the mole. Or no, she just says, because I'm the mole. Or did she say, because you think I'm the mole? Or she just says, because I'm the mole? I can't remember.
Because I'm the mole is what she says. Yeah.
Okay. And then, cut to black. So now we're left to wonder, like, how Mira is going to get out of this. Or if we come back from the next episode, shoots her in the head. Done with.
Yeah.
What was her reason?
Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, anyway. This is like this didn't really advance too much of like the overall conspiracy going on. It was like this is like their Monster of the Week episode essentially. So
yeah,
but it was all right.
Yeah, it's kind of just another dark blacklist.
I mean, it's almost like along the line. Yeah, I got more of an X Files vibe or even Fringe vibe from this episode.
Yeah, this reminded me a lot of Fringe when it's like, oh, we're edge tech science but it's just a criminal, just an evil person too. Like I said, anyone who's just going to perform surgery on a child they kidnapped and shoot her in the head so she looks like his dead daughter so he can get away clean is like, that is a coldness that, like, it's unimaginable.
Yeah.
But, it's wouldn't be exciting if people were just like accountants.
All right, so for our second show, we have The Mentalist, Season 2, Episode 12, Bleeding Heart. Original air date January 21st, 2010, CBS Thursday. While investigating the death of the mayor's media liaison, Patrick is kidnapped by an eco-terrorist who is a suspect in the case. Meanwhile, the team reluctantly agrees to be filmed for a documentary. Showrunner Bruno Heller, written by Erica Green Swafford, and directed by Noberto Barba.
Yeah, this was an interesting. This episode had an interesting element of a documentary film crew.
Yeah.
Talking to the CBI.
I was wondering, are they trying to do like an Office thing here?
I don't know if it was going to be The Office or like the MASH episode. Remember the famous MASH episode where they were filming?
Vaguely.
Yeah, they didn't have any backstory. It was just like the doctors working at the MASH unit and all the people there. And there wasn't a lot of humor and there wasn't like a B story or anything. It was just filming these guys at the MASH unit. And it's like, yeah, this is why all these people are kind of strange because they're doctors in a war zone and really horrible stuff's going on all the time. It was a very famous episode of MASH because it just had a linear A story of the guys filming and people reacting. And there was no like behind, it was shot as if you were seeing it just through the lens of the film crew. This didn't do that, but I was thinking for a minute, I was like, they like to do weird storytelling stuff sometimes on The Mentalist. Maybe they'll do this, but they didn't.
Yeah, it's just being framed here as like every once in a while we're going to cut to the documentary thing, which is like why I said it's more Office style. It's like,
yeah,
cut to the confession area and have Jim smirk.
the show has like one of his greatest things in this the whole time.
Yeah, we start out with Lisbon and Jane are being filmed for a documentary. They kind of shut it down because Jane doesn't like being filmed for some reason. He doesn't like. Well, it's like he doesn't want to have feelings in front of a camera that will forever show that he has feelings. So.
Yeah, and he also thinks it's exploitation too.
Yeah,
because he knows a lot about that.
But apparently, like the CBI, like media person's like, this will be good. Like, this will be good PR for us after losing like 4 agents and the director of the CBI.
Well, and they also play like we get a little bit of a shot of the outer world, because they're talking to Lisbon, and it's like, yeah, you're the most effective group in the CBI, and she's like, yeah, we don't keep score, but yeah, and then he like unrolls the zinger. It's like, you also have the highest amount of lawsuits against you and like all kinds of misconduct stuff. And it's like, well, yeah. Then she's like, what is this? Stop. Yeah. The film crew is aggressive. And apparently the deputy attorney general of California has said that they have to cooperate with this in some way.
Yeah.
Which I knew it's like, oh, as soon as they're like pulling rank on CBI, this is going to blow up in their face, the upper people. And it did. I didn't know how, but I knew it's like, yeah, this is the PR person's going to end up like, oh, this is really backfired on us. And then the news is bad and let the police work.
So we have like, they're on a case that's politically sensitive because like the mayor's like secretary is killed.
Presley.
Martha St. Clair. She works for the mayor. And then Jane says the killer wanted her to be found by the media.
Yeah, it's a spectacular, like they're groundbreaking on this controversial business development, and the place where they were doing the ceremonial shoveling, it's like, oh, her PR, the mayor's PR person is like a corpse in there, and they immediately uncover her on camera.
Yeah.
while this is being filmed. It's like, ooh, that's dark.
And then Jane insults like the chief of police or whatever he is, or the sheriff
Yeah,
or
this is the
something.
first time I've heard like the tension. It's like, oh, the CBI's bigfooting the local guys. Because this isn't like Los Angeles or something. It's some smaller city in
Yeah.
further up in California.
I mean, that's usually what Jane does, but like this one was like a bit more. Like guy was like about to like punch Jane in the on front on top of the crime scene.
Yeah, because he's Jane's being an antagonist and reading people.
Yeah, you were cheating on your wife, and now you're losing weight because now you're like living in a motel, eating bad food, or not eating.
Yeah,
And the woman you cheated with was you don't even respect her, so you're not even cheating with her anymore. Apparently, it was all like right on the spot because the guy just tries to punch him.
yeah. Jane like runs away,
Yeah.
like vaults all over the crime scene tape. Like, oh, I'm good, I'm done.
um. Yeah, so they're breaking ground on some new building project that's like apparently on some disputed wild lands. We have Mayor Shannon here. We also have Jasper, the unfriendly eco-terrorist,
Yeah,
who shows up in videos and has like a symbol that's kind of like almost like a Chinese symbol. That's a tree or something.
yeah,
And then Jane picks up on that the mayor didn't like Martha, and she's like, wait a minute, like how'd you know that? Because she's trying to make it seem like oh she was a valued employee, like we loved her. It's like he's like no you didn't. And he also like steals some note off her desk that's like emergency, like she's gonna do something, but it doesn't say because apparently Martha was going to reveal something about the mayor.
Well, the mayor was taking bribes from the developer to build this building, this business slash retail space type shopping center.
Yeah.
So that's what the mayor was in cahoots with. Heaton Krupp, name of the developer.
Which how does that work out? Like he was bribing her so she would like release government money to give to him.
It was something, yeah. It's whatever absurd amount of money he was making in this development.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's a $20 million development, but like that's not necessarily the cost of building the thing.
yeah. I think that's like the straight up cost. It's not the total cost after you throw in all the government subsidies and all the money, and it seemed to just be involved in a lot of stuff like that.
But apparently, like Martha was going to withhold like $10 million of the funding, so Rigsby and Cho, like interview Krupp, and then while they're interviewing, the place gets locked up and firebombed.
Yeah,
Which gets pretty intense. I like that. It was almost comical with the Mr. Krupp there. Like he's like, my leg's on fire. They cut to it. It's like totally engulfed in flames.
yeah.
Like he was just like, oh, I doused my leg in alcohol before I walked in here. Like bad choice.
I knew I shouldn't have kept all that gasoline on the floor. Yeah, it was a little ridiculous. Kind of got scary because Joe couldn't open the door.
Yeah.
And then he had to like throw the couch through the window or something.
Yeah. But yeah, then we go to the funny Cho part because we cut back to the CBI office and Cho's getting interviewed by the documentary crew, but Cho just like interviews them back.
Why do you want to be a cop? Why do you want to be a filmmaker?
Yeah, and like the guy's like an investigative reporter, and it's like how long you been doing this, and it's like, oh, so you're still local, so you're a failure then.
Yeah, you're ambitious but not successful. But it's always that Cho monologue.
Yeah. It's completely monotone and
Yeah, because like he's as insightful as Jane in some ways, but he doesn't have the delivery's totally different.
yeah.
It's just all actual factual.
And then
Like,
also,
I'm not lying.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it also cut to Rigsby just like laughing. It's like, I wish I could do that. and then like as the documentary crew leaves, like Cho kind of like reveals like a little bit of a smirk. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant to do. um, and we come back to the mayor because she's again suspicious, because of the firebombing. And then she seems extra suspicious because she's like constantly deflecting. She's like, why do I have to do your job for you? Which is not something like innocent people say.
Yeah, usually you're like, yeah, let's clear this up. There's like a corpse and people are dead, and let's yeah. Instead, we're gonna act super suspicious because if you got your corners covered, you be the most helpful person. Like, oh yeah, exactly what you're saying. Yeah, go with that. Yeah, it's anything you need.
And then Jane takes the camera crew out for tacos, and Jane gets kidnapped by the eco terrorists.
Yeah, it's an apology taco, because he was just like pretending when they ask him questions and he pretend to go to sleep, and and of course the PR person's there, and then he's looking in their fridge for something, and the guy like is asking him questions, and the guy's got the camera, and Jane's like, I'll shove that camera down your throat or whatever if you come near me with it again. And then the PR person steps in. He's like, yeah, you know what? Let's have apology tacos. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's where Jane gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
And yeah, cut to commercial, come back, and he's in a room with Jasper, the eco terrorist. And he tells Jane like he didn't kill Martha and he didn't firebomb the office. And then, Jane's obviously like, this isn't a great way to tell me that.
Yeah, you can use a phone. Yeah.
But then he says like he's handsome or something, and that's what Jasper gets hung up on. So he reveals himself, and it's Jasper's the mayor's assistant.
Yeah.
And then but then, oh yeah, Cho and Rigsby like interrogate one of Jasper's associates, and they pretend like they're gonna rough him up, but that's how they get the info. They're like, call the ambulance like ahead of time. It's like, yeah, he fell and broke his arm. He's like, no, he didn't. It's like all of there's cops. It's like that's all they're gonna see, but they never actually rough him up. It's just like clever.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not really clever. I'm pretty sure cops do it all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, I have no idea. It seems to be cops do that before you bring the person in.
I'll tell you what, just from just things I've seen, if you say lawyer and they're really mad, they will say stuff like that. Yeah. But it's all just talk. You just got to look straight at the wall. Just lawyer, lawyer, lawyer. It's like, I'll knock your teeth down your head. Okay. I can't.
I don't know. I mean, that's always like the conceit of these shows when they have someone dead to rights. Is like, just tell us what happened. It's like, it feels like no one would ever say that unless it's just a great revelation for their conscience. Like, it's like, this needs to be revealed or it'll eat me from the inside.
Yeah, which most people that do things like that are not. They're not really ready to bare their soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time you say lawyer, and half the time they won't even anymore now because it's all taped and stuff. They'll be like, yeah, okay, and they'll just work some other angle to find that. Yeah, they don't need a confession anymore because they always make like circumstantial evidence seem like, we can't convict, we need a confession. It's like in real life, most people are convicted on circumstantial evidence, and circumstantial evidence is not bad evidence. It puts you in the place of the crime or someone who would benefit from it. Like, that's how you solve crimes. But yeah, TV shows make it sound like you've got to obtain a confession. It's like, well, okay, you're going to turn this place into a CIA black site because that's the way you're getting a confession out of most people.
Yeah, because most convictions aren't because people think it's like a lot of eyewitness testimony, but no, it's usually it's like just physical evidence that usually like convicts people.
Cell phone pings, cameras that are everywhere. It's like they don't need to take the fire hose to you anymore. I mean, they might want to. It might be satisfying, but yeah, they're not going to lose their jobs over that. And then I know people here that have been convicted. I don't know them personally, but I've read stories of people that have been convicted of murder and did like 5 years in prison. It's like, okay, so that's like, how high are the stakes? Especially like in Michigan, like you're not going to get the chair. They've never had the death penalty here. You just go to some freezing cold prison somewhere. So, anyway.
Anyways, yeah, that guy like reveals that there's some cabin in the woods that they have him at, and then Jane is like starting to hypnotize Jasper, and then that's when the CBI show up and surround the cabin.
Yeah.
And then like Jane's kind of like freaked out for a bit. It's like, hey, don't kill me. Like we can work this out. And then they take the house, but like Jasper like runs off.
Yeah.
And there's a funny moment where like Lisbon comes up. It's like, all right, don't move. We need to get the bomb squad in here to make sure everything's okay. And she's lying to him.
Yeah, don't move. You might be booby trapped.
Which actually seems like a legitimate concern. So it's actually kind of like a weird, like unprofessional joke by Lisbon, but for the show, it's totally fine.
Yeah, it makes sense with this show. I mean, there's.
But then immediately, like, Jane says that Jasper killed Martha to protect his identity, and then I'm like, that seems to be not what he was thinking otherwise. And I wrote, is this some misdirect? And then I immediately wrote, did the camera crew do it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, just by process of elimination and the fact that they're just waiting in the woods and they see Jasper walking around and they're like, oh, yeah, hold up for a warrant. It's like, what? No. They made some deal. The guilty part. I thought someone else was going to show up, like the mayor or something crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we got him. But it turned out that was kind of interesting. Like, yeah, the camera crew plays a bigger part in the story. Well, not the camera crew, the one.
It's the investigative journalist Mike.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all a ruse for Jane to catch Mike in a lie to figure things out, and it's like he knew that because there's this necklace that's in the wind that was supposedly special to her. So he's like, oh, you're gonna plant that when we're gonna take that, and then you're gonna frame this guy, and then. Yeah, then it's basically revealed that like he killed her because they were dating. It just kind of comes all of a sudden, but it's kind of clever, but like not earned. It's one of those like they wanted to do a thing where it's like it was there all the time. You just needed to look, but it's like there really isn't evidence to suggest them, except for like in the Cho scene where he's like, "Oh, so you're yeah, you said you're ambitious, but you're not good at your job." And then he just killed her because like she laughed at him essentially. So, and then he set this whole thing up, and then they show like a scene where it's like, because they use them later on or earlier on where they're like, we need footage of the when they're breaking ground, and so like yeah, we were there, and so, and then there's a point where it's like when she starts to dig it up, and like Mike looks away because he already knows what happens, and that's where Jane apparently picked up on. It's like, oh, he did.
Yeah.
But he doesn't tell that to anybody.
Yeah. It was still cool.
Yeah, it was fine. Also, I wrote Perd happily shows up.
Yeah.
It's like his name's like Jay Jackson, so he's on the news giving like a on-air report about like what happened and what's going on. And so I mostly note that guy is Perd Hapley on Parks and Rec. And he actually plays like a news guy in like several other television shows. Like they just kind of like need a background actor. And this guy's just like always up for the job. But I think his most famous thing is being Perd Hapley. So I thought that was funny. And then ultimately, the last reveal is Van Pelt and Rigsby reveal their relationship, which apparently everybody knew except for Lisbon. So Lisbon's very mad because she doesn't know how she's going to deal with it. Because like apparently, what's on the books is like, well, they need to be like somebody needs to be like either they need to be both fired or somebody needs to be sent away to a different office or whatever. But yeah, that's how the episode ends.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. There's no. Yeah, she says she doesn't know what she's gonna do, and it's like credits.
It's hard to tell with Lisbon because she's by the book, but then like every week with Jane's like, well, I got to look the other way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a consultant, so they let him have that leeway. It's like, oh, we can fire him at any moment, and we're not, or maybe they're paying him. I actually don't know.
I've never really asked. Yeah, or I've never really come up.
Or he's taking a very minimal fee.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's kind of a dip in the season so far. It started pretty strong. So. But you hated last week's episode more.
Yeah, I was not a fan. I really did.
Which the episode's fine. It's like it's a normal episode. I just feel like the reveal that it was like the documentary crew just seems like pretty far fetched. But
yeah, it was.
I don't know. Things can be both far fetched and fun. So like,
yeah, that's kind of the thing with the Mentalist is they can come up with some real like out of the box stuff, but they can always use Jane as like his ultimate powers of observation make this possible, and then it turns out to be true. But it's like, well, really, it's only this observational gambit that makes a lot of this possible. Like you would never go to A to B with this stuff. And some of the looser written episodes like this and the one last week, it's like I don't. This doesn't hang together. But sometimes it's really good. It's like, oh, I just straight up missed that, or I see it, and then like I'm following along, like I'm smart as Jane. Look, I'm seeing the same things he is. If I had a camera to focus in on everything I saw that I should notice, I'm a hero in real life. But it's a thing.
And for our third show, we have Miami Vice, Season 2, Episode 12, Phil the Shill. Original air date, December 13th, 1985, NBC Friday. A British television personality who has dealings with a major cocaine dealer is targeted by Crockett and Tubbs. Showrunner Michael Mann, written by Paul Diamond, directed by John Nicolella. So this is the famous Phil Collins episode.
Very timely this week, considering Phil Collins has announced his retirement for health reasons.
Yeah.
Which is like, wow, that's weird that we're reviewing this episode now. That just happened.
Yeah, he apparently, I'm not sure all of his health reasons or all of his health problems, but he recently been touring, but he's just a singer because he apparently had back surgery and he couldn't hold a drumstick in his right hand anymore.
Yeah.
But his son has been drumming for him. Like
okay.
So that kind of said, it was a family event.
Yeah.
Also, weirdly, I watched the South Park episode, and there was like it's not this year. It's like came out in 2017, but I immediately forget who's the Cars guy. Here in my car.
I can't think of his name, but yeah, I know the band, the Cars. Yeah.
Well, not the band. That's
the main guy. Anyway, what about him?
Gary Newman.
Yeah, okay.
So like, there was a song in the South Park episode. I was like, is this like a fake, like techno song that they came up with? It was like, no, it was like a Gary Newman song from 2017, and he's like 61 now or something, and like, it's a decent like kind of like industrial techno song or whatever, and it's like him and his daughter doing sad music together. I don't know, she's in the video and she like sings on it. I'm not sure if it's like they're collaborating together. Also, I found out weird stuff about Gary Newman. Apparently, like he was like pro Margaret Thatcher or something.
Okay, interesting.
which he now regrets. Although he says like, I'm not necessarily like conservative or liberal, but I definitely know I don't want to give anybody my money. So it's like, okay, now I know where Gary Newman stands. So yeah.
He learned the truth, the hard truth.
Also, apparently, like, he took a bunch of tests at like some place, and like he apparently has Asperger's, but he was like, it was just a bunch of tests, and just ignored it.
Yeah,
it's like, I've gone this far, I've been successful, it works for me.
Yeah. Oh, anyways. That's funny.
Yeah. But anyways, Phil Collins retired, had his last show like like this week, and is retiring from essentially music. So
At 71.
yeah. Yeah, Phil Collins is hosting some weird game show that's kind of like Double Dare-esque, but for adults.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is like, where's the green slime? You know,
Which I'm not sure if this precedes Double Dare or not. I don't know. I thought that was like late 80s, but I actually have no idea. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of wacky TV shows, game shows at this time anyway, so I'm pretty sure Double Dare probably got its stuff from somewhere else, but I'm just... Double Dare is my focal point on that kind of wacky game show stuff. So
yeah.
we have Emo Phillips versus Switek.
It's so weird. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's the celebrities that were on this show.
And if you don't know Emo Phillips is an incredibly weird comedian.
I'm Emo Phillips.
And sometimes it's like some of the stuff is like it's just like almost cringe, but then like when he gets to like he gets to a punchline that just comes out of nowhere, it's like, okay, Emo Phillips is funny, but the setup is always very like weird and annoying.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, because he's talking like this. You know, he's modulating his voice all over the place, but then he has these punchlines where it's like, oh my God, did he just say that? Like, you don't expect that coming from a guy sounds like that.
Yeah.
He's got some great jokes, and I'm not going to tell any of them here because, but it was fun to see him in this. It's like I was not
a young Emo Phillips.
Yeah,
I mean, he always kind of looks like he doesn't really ever look old because he's very lanky and weird and has long hair. But here it's just like he's even just like smoother essentially.
Yeah, it's less craggy.
Yeah. And then we cut to they're in a different spot. Crockett and Tubbs are at some, I don't know, like club or whatever, where they provoke some bodyguard / driver. So then Tubbs can sneak a tracking device in there.
Yeah, listening thing. Yeah.
Which I tried to look up who the bodyguard driver was because he looks like a dude who would probably be a wrestler, especially by the way he's like throwing Crockett around. But
yeah,
I couldn't find anything. So maybe he's just some bodybuilder in Florida.
Yeah.
But yeah, Crockett like distracts him by saying he scratched his Ferrari, and the guy ends up like throwing him on top, body slamming on top of the Ferrari.
Yeah, because it looks like Crockett has the high ground. Like, oh, he's got the advantage. He's beating the crap out of this guy. But then this guy who like looks like a huge bodybuilder just picks him up and throws him eventually. I don't think you're hurting that guy very much punching him that way, but okay.
And when he does that, it's like, that's good bodyguard. That's why you hire that guy. And then like they go back to the club, and then like they're like Crockett's like stuffing tissues up his nose because it's bleeding.
Yeah.
And then they see on TV that Switek, because the reason they're doing this is because like Zito and Switek like called in sick.
Yeah.
And then they see Switek on the show, and they're like, hey, hold on a minute.
Hey, the undercover cop's on TV. He just blew his cover. He could never be in. No, that is not what happened. But that's what I was thinking. I was like, wait a minute. It's supposed to be like, I know they're kind of the tech guy, backup gun undercover cops, but sometimes they are frontmen too.
Yeah.
It's like, that's interesting. Of course, I didn't understand this whole game show / swindle where they put like, because Emo Phillips turns out to be the ringer, and the game's rigged so Switek can't win.
Yeah.
And it's like $100,000 to win, but instead like Phil and Emo Phillips split the money. Well, actually, Phil just runs away with the money. But it's like, why does he have the stake money, and how is it put up, and how is this a scam? It's like, I don't understand it, but okay, I'm just going with it.
Well, also like this is apparently the last show because like their sponsor, who's like just some wholesaler, like doesn't want to sponsor them anymore.
Yeah.
And also there's like the weird spot because they have this whole like little maze inside the game show that they run, and that's where we get it's some. I'm not sure if it's an official Phil Collins song or if he just wrote it exclusively
Oh,
for
it's an
this.
official.
Oh, it is, okay. Yeah, so yeah, it's this weird rat race Phil Collins song.
It's a rat race for easy money. Rat race. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Switek gets screwed out of winning, but then the show's been canceled. Because his like buzzer doesn't turn on even though he gets to it first. Like he hits it, but the light doesn't turn on. So it's like, oh, the light didn't turn on. And then he hits it again, but then it's suddenly working. And then I get, because the last question for the money was a Elvis related question. That's why Switek gets extra pissed about it, because it's like, that's his thing. Like, I'm an Elvis guy. I know everything about Elvis.
Yes, and there were earlier Elvis question where Emo Phillips totally shit the bed, and Switek knew not only the answer to how many bathrooms were in Graceland, but also some more details about it.
Yeah.
Well, Switek clearly had the advantage here.
Then we have a young Kyra Cedric shows up.
Yeah.
And there's just some guys hanging upside down swinging, and then they get executed by a MAC-10.
Yep.
That was a cool setup.
It actually was, because they were swinging back and forth and trying to talk to this guy because he thought they'd screwed him on a drug deal. And
and the guy there is Tony Rivers. He's some new drug dealer, gangster, or whatever.
yeah.
Well, apparently, I think they say they've been working this case for 18 months, but this is new to us. But like, apparently, this is a grudge for Vice to get this guy. I'm not exactly sure why, or it's, just like, we just need to stop crime, or if they have some particular thing. Well, I guess also now they have like 2 murders they need to solve. But also, this guy seems to leave a lot of bodies in the wake.
Yeah, just
they don't think about disposing bodies. They just want them to be spectacularly found.
Yes. Hanging upside down and
shoot him in a running helicopter.
Yeah, it's like, that thing's gonna catch on fire. Oh well.
Yeah, or like a funny thing, they shoot the guy in the helicopter and he like his feet like tilt the rotor and the rotor tilts over and kills them.
Doesn't happen, but
no.
yeah.
And then we have Castillo like reprimands Zito and Switek, and now they have to they get docked a day's pay, and now they have to work the graveyard shift. Apparently in place of Gina and Trudy, which I don't know if it's like, I imagine there's like a rotation of shifts, but it seemed like they but at this moment it kind of seemed like, are they just giving Gina and Trudy the bad jobs all the time?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta work the graveyard shift, but it
Instead
seems like
of the women folk, you're gonna be out there doing it.
Yeah, that's what it kind of came off as. But I don't know, later on you see that you see Switek like in like official cop uniform, and it's like, oh, this must be like a graveyard shift for like the whole unit or something, and like just everybody gets it, everybody catches it every once in a while.
Yeah, when he says I'm gonna dock you a day's pay, Switek's like, I want my union rep.
That is illegal, right?
Yeah, that is illegal. That's why I thought, as soon as I heard that, I was like, no, get your union rep. You have to put up with that shit. He can look grim at the wall all he wants to, but it's like, nah, it doesn't make for compelling TV, especially in the 80s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we see this where we saw Phil Collins rigged the game. He like took like $80,000 of the prize money, but it kind of looks like he takes all of it because he just kind of pushes Emo Phillips out of there.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'll meet you later. He's actually, Phil Collins is not a bad actor in this.
No, yeah, he's fine.
I mean, you know it's Phil Collins the whole time.
Yeah.
Fun to, oh, okay.
I don't know. Like, there was kind of like a later on Phil Collins. Well, now it kind of seems sad because now he's retiring. But there's a later life Phil Collins stuff. It's like, it was just purely, probably for decades, like his reputation is like, oh, this guy's just a gigantic asshole.
Yeah.
And then he goes on a shopping spree. Apparently, Ari owns a Lamborghini, although it's a weird Lamborghini. It's like not a cool looking Lamborghini.
That is a Lamborghini Jalpa.
Huh.
It came out kind of concurrently with the Countach, It was
Yeah.
more of a down.
Was it more
It was,
affordable?
yeah, it was a more affordable. It had a V8 engine,
Huh.
um, and it was like it was what they call a Targa top, where you just take the top out, so it was open top that way. They actually said it was very easy to drive on the streets, unlike most Lamborghinis. Like this car was pretty. They said it had a real heavy clutch and steering because it didn't have power steering, because that draws power away from the engine. But they said of all the Lamborghinis, it was one of the easiest ones to actually drive on the street. So I don't know if you've.
Well, it seemed to actually have like a ground clearance.
Yeah, yeah, and it was, you could operate it normally. I don't know if you've ever seen the American, the short-lived American, what's that show called? Not the Grand Tour, but it was the one.
Oh, the American Top Gear one?
Yeah, the American Top Gear, where they're like, we're driving supercars in New York City, and it was absolutely horrendous because they couldn't, because these Lamborghinis all had paddle shifters and it had like a brake clutch, and yeah, stop and go traffic. Because these cars were just like trying to keep them, just moving and stop and go traffic, and it was horrendous. It's like, yeah, that's what it's like driving those cars normally in any kind of traffic. But this one apparently got high marks for both being affordable and being drivable in traffic situations.
Yeah, because I don't think I've ever seen that for at first I thought it was just some weird car kit. Like the back end almost looks like a Countach. So I thought I thought it was just some weird kit car they put together.
No, it's the same family of car, just it weighs a lot less. They only made 400 of them,
Huh.
so it's there weren't a lot of them. It only had 300 horsepower too, if you can imagine that.
Huh.
It's like, huh.
Um.
Anyway, it was the 80s, different time.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of weird cars in the '80s because they're like the emission standards and the fuel mileage standards like change rapidly. I know this is like I know this is like more firmly in the Reagan era, but that stuff still happened.
Oh yeah, they ruined cars in the late 70s and 80s. They just stuffed a sock in the cake and made it impossible. They were terrible. I mean, that's why they almost vaporized, because you couldn't really have you could have nice stuff from Europe because they were paying the fines to pollute. But yeah, the American cars and a lot of cars just were underpowered then. That's when, like when Aston Martin was made a sedan. It was out of the same era. It's like, well, we can't do supercars anymore, so we're going to make the most expensive sedan ever made.
I remember also like there's kind of a weird styling stuff, which I remember. I think they're called Fox body Mustangs.
Yes,
that's always the Mustangs I associate of being bad looking because they look like escorts because they're essentially on kind of the same frame, right?
it was just a downgrade chassis. They didn't have a performance chassis.
Yeah, so I always associate those like, oh, those are the shitty Mustangs, but they actually like had a lot of cool stuff to them
Oh yeah,
if you did a lot of upgrades for it. But that's where you had the 5.0 Mustang was one of those. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you shoved a big enough engine in there and did hop ups on the engine and suspension, it's like they were great in a straight line.
And I forget there was something about the Fox body construction that made it actually like pretty useful for like upgrading and working on.
Yeah, it was I think it was a rigid box frame is what they called it, so you didn't twist the body out of shape. But yeah, the Mustangs before that were kind of known for handling too, and then they kind of negated the handling with that. It was more like a muscle car type thing, where it was like all those muscle cars from the 70s were furiously fast in a straight line.
Yeah.
Because like now the Mustangs they have, like they're completely different, and they can actually handle a lot. Not quite Corvette, but pretty close. Especially
for like half the price.
Yeah, for half the price. Or not if you get the GT 500 or whatever.
Yeah.
I rode in one of those. The guy scared the crap out of me. I was like, Jesus, how fast does this thing go? It's like really fast, really quick.
What is it, the Mach-E? That does a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah, Mach-E is insane. It's like instant on power. And you can run it in different modes. And I know some people that have them. They love them. But
yeah. But also like anyways, the Phil Collins, he's doing the shopping spree. And he doesn't buy the Lambo, he just has it. But he goes and buys a bunch of jewelry, and then he buys some pearls for Kyra Cedric. Here is her character's name is Sarah.
I think she was 19 when this was filmed.
The Kyra Cedric I mostly know for when she played on. She's on The Closer, which was like a TNT cop drama in the mid 2000s. That's what I most know her for. She has a lot of work. It's probably actually, unfortunately, most known for being married to Kevin Bacon.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that too. And losing half their money to Bernie Madoff.
Oh, yeah. I remember The Closer being really cool. That's actually precedes The Mentalist, but kind of has a similar thing to it.
Yeah.
Where she's just like very observant. But there, like, she was like just super smart, and she worked for the CIA, and then ends up being like working for the Los Angeles homicide. But then they meet, and he takes her to her home. It's like a boat. And then he sets up a date with her later on. Because at first, like, we see like the Tony and her like walk out together. You figure like, oh, they're a couple, but no, they're just business partners.
Yeah, it seemed kind of weird at first because I was like, oh, that's Tony's girlfriend. It's like, no, I guess not, but it's like they have some kind of.
I guess that's on me for making assumptions, but yeah, it's.
Oh, I thought the same thing too, and then until he explained, like, you're don't make deals for kilos. You're an ounces girl. You deal with like dentists and doctors, or they had some line like that, like, you don't do kilos. That's out of your league.
We recently watched a movie called Light Sweeper, which is pretty much that's which actually is weirdly has like a lot of DNA with where it's like you only sell to like these high end clients, you only sell in ounces and stuff like that.
Just under the felony amount, or no, not felony, intent to distribute amount, which was like 20 years, but possession was only 2 or something.
But we have Izzy shows up as an interior designer, but because Phil is also a con man, he sees right through Izzy. But he still makes a deal with them. He's like, all right, well, it's like, because apparently he has this place, but it's just like devoid of any furniture. It just has like a chair in it.
Yeah, it's one of those weird Florida houses.
Yeah, it's just some weird, like, bougie, like, beachside house.
Yeah.
Then
I call scumbag houses because nobody who's a decent person just has this giant open concept house with a bunch of weird indirect lighting, and those are houses for people like, hey, look, I have a big house, everyone. Those guys.
Yeah.
Like, there's no features that make them special. Others that are big and they have a lot of windows.
But then Izzy crosses with Crockett and Tubbs, and they're angry. It's like, what are you doing here? And then they find out Switek put Izzy in the mix.
Yeah, Switek's still after this guy for his game show money.
Yeah. And then we have Phil here order some Coke from Sarah, and because he's gonna like have this big party, so then she can have like a bunch of people she can sell Coke to there. And then also he's going to like try to con a bunch of people who have money to buy Coke.
Yeah, he wants them to like give like, oh yeah, you can invest in my Bahamas condo thing. It's only $1,000 down.
Yeah, he has a bunch of different cons that all like are specifically $100,000 cons.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know what that was about. Like apparently he just wants $100,000.
Well, I mean, you can buy a Ferrari and a house and a bunch of jewelry with it. I don't know. $100,000 is a lot of money back then.
Yeah. But I don't know why he was just like, everything's $100,000. Like, he got $100,000 from the game show. He's looking to con everybody with just $100,000 schemes. Like, it was all specific. I mean, it's
because you can carry it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And then we have like Crockett and Tubbs on the trail of Tony, but the driver found their bug.
Yeah.
And this is also where like they pull up and a helicopter lands and they pull up and shoot the helicopter pilot because he's the only one the driver definitely knows has been in the car. So
yeah,
they think he's like in league with the police. And then Trudy and Gina are putting some stuff on their boat on Tony's boat, and so they plant another bug in the boat. And then we have the party where Sarah's selling coke, and then Phil's trying to con people, and then Phil like cons his way into like, oh, I can sell you coke for a cheaper price, and then Sarah takes Phil away, and I was like, oh, probably to kill him.
Yeah,
essentially it was kind of,
yeah.
They make like they rough him up and make a deal with him, like, hey, you're going to be the middleman in this deal because it seems too good to be true, so you're going to take the fall. Yes, she's supposed to be selling small amounts, not kilos. Because she also meets Crockett and Tubbs, and they're like, yeah, we need 5 keys, and then she gets too ambitious.
Yeah.
And then Phil goes back to his house, and he's like looking to leave town, and he just has like a bunch of fake passports.
Yeah, this guy seems to be like a man of the world.
Yeah. And then but Crockett and Tubbs reveal themselves to be cops, and then like so they're going to use him. And so they start to make up the deal where like he was going to make the deal with the doctors that they were going to sell coke to, and they take their money to go make the deal with Tony. But then Vice is there and they ambush Tony. It's like at a carnival, so it's like an interesting visual scene to have a shootout at a carnival.
Yeah. And there was no one there.
Yeah,
it was just these guys because it's like,
all the shit's running.
Yeah, well, I guess that was considered like a major error in this show because it was not running before the shootout started.
Oh, okay.
And it was explained that it's like, oh, they wanted to have it running, but it was interfering with like filming and a lot of the like they couldn't get any audio. Sound or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff happens here. There's like in the case that Tubbs has, there's like a little bomb that goes off that like in Tony's face. And then everybody's running around and people are getting shot, just kind of popping up out of nowhere. And in the middle of this, Phil runs off with $75,000.
Yep.
And then I don't remember what happened. I don't know what happens to Sarah in the scene. Like, I know what happens at the end, but like, I don't remember where she how she escapes or if the cops arrested her or not.
Yeah, it shows her like running up a ride that's running like on the outer rim of it.
Yeah. I guess she just gets away. Yeah, it looked kind of precarious. She's like running up this thing, and it looks almost like she's gonna be hit by the ride. So it's like that's kind of a cool look. It looks dangerous. What?
No, I was just saying. Yeah, I remember that seeing was like, yeah, that's particularly dangerous. Like, if she falls or something while she's filming, that thing's just gonna cut her in half. But it didn't happen.
But that kind of, and I think they shoot Tony at some point. I think at some point he's dead. I think like he's like going for like Gina or something, and then she shoots him dead, or like 3 people shoot him at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just like random like goons here that just get shot up for those. Like, well, somebody needs to die. I mean, it's an interesting shootout nonetheless. So,
right.
A lot of good visual stuff in this episode. Not necessarily like the most competent story, but it's fine.
No, it was just fun to see Phil Collins, and this is the Phil Collins episode.
But yeah, they let Phil go away because they're not going to chase him because it's not their thing, and then but because they ran away with like the doctor's money, it's like it's all right. It's like, and they're never going to come and collect it because they'd have to be admitting to felony drug buy. So just everybody's clean. But then like the last scene is we have Zito and Switek watching TV, and then he's flipping through the channels, and they see Phil is like being like some sort of like Christian healing con artist on TV. Yeah. And he's got like a wig on, and then Sarah's also there, and she's pretending to be like deaf, and then like he heals her, and then Switek says like, "This one's for you, Elvis," and he shoots the TV,
and the TV explodes like a bomb went off. Great scene. It was the closing credits in this. No Miami Vice theme, just like fade to black.
Well, there's like like freeze frames, and then there's like a voiceover of Zito going like what'd you do that for?
Yeah, that's right. I did have the weird kind of out of context voiceover.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a fun episode, fun. So
Yeah,
some visual interesting stuff.
I enjoyed it.
And I don't think there's another Phil Collins episode, but it seems like they leave room for it.
Yeah, I don't believe there is.
Okay.
Don't, like I said, this was one of the most famous cameos in this show.
Yeah,
because that guy was pretty well known, and actually, this actually helped his career hugely. So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like the In the Air of the Night, scene is super famous. So,
yeah,
so he's so closely associated with the show, and he's had like 3 songs in the show already. So, but yeah, for some reason, like I vaguely remember this episode, like because I've seen the reruns when I was a kid, but I just basically don't remember them whatsoever because I was really young.
yeah.
So for some reason in my head, I had somewhere in my head, it was like I thought like Phil Collins and like Elvis the Alligator interacted at some point, but no, that was just a mix up in my head. So
Yeah, it's a lot of what was it? Yeah, it's a lot of there's a lot of things I've misremembered about this too. But I watched this again like in the early 2000s.
yeah.
So it's like some of it's a little fresher to me, but yeah.
Hey,
So
so
again,
if
this
you
is one of those shows that was a seminal show for its time.
Well, if you liked what you heard, and how couldn't you? You can find us at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect, or go to verhoeveneffect.com, goes to the same place. Or find it on whatever podcast platform of your choice. You can rate our podcast. You can rate it whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. And remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. At verhoeveneffect.com, we also have listener support where you can, for a monthly stipend, you can support this podcast for 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. We can also find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook Verhoeven Effect. We also have a YouTube channel, American Greed Factory, where you can watch both this show and that show live and unedited. And we also have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Colin.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.